Ah, thanks whoever did that. Probably Mark.
Probably Mark, yep.
Hello.
Mark.
Hello, Mark.
Hello.
Get this out. The leader's here.
Oh, ukulele. That'd be useful, wouldn't it?
That's right, I just had the same thought.
Hey, Ruth, what were they talking about? I heard them talking about the supercars on the radio, the Savo.
I haven't heard that. They're not going to reinstigate, are they?
Yes, yes, they are. I just saw it on the TV.
Is that what it was?
It's on the weekend of the 2nd of March, COVID willing. And so that means we won't be able to get to the beach for the end of the summer or March when we still go to the beach. Anyway, I'm never happy about it.
No.
No.
Just found out we're going back to
Festival.
Is that when the Central Coast is on, Alita?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Wanji.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it's March 4th to 6th.
4th to 6th, is it?
Supercars, yeah.
just found out via the news that we're going back to school a week earlier.
Yeah. Heard that.
What is that going to catch up for 2021 lockdown and digital learning? Is it? We'll go back a week later?
Honestly, my quote at the moment is, during World War II, students didn't go to school for 4 years, right? And we then had the biggest economic explosion after World War II. We all did all right. We're going to do okay if the kids miss a little bit, like, seriously.
Good quote.
Be happy.
That is good.
I agree.
I'll have to remember that one.
That's a really good comment.
So, John, I was just going to ask, I actually last week had a bad experience with C bar blues, the C blues, because someone showed me a sheet of music and I was reverted to chemistry in year 11.
Right.
Which was, I can't do this, I don't know this, I can't do this, I don't know this, I can't do this, I don't know this, I'm really, 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 really bad.
Just spiraling.
We have a counsellor employed in this group, which is Pip Cleaves. He does the school counselling in.
I'm not a counsellor.
it.
I'm a counsellor. Get out of here.
Someone, went back over the video, and I think your comment, Mark, was, "Oh, C bar blues, everyone knows that, don't they? We'll just do D." And I was like, "Eh." And then I never learned it anyway. I haven't learned it. Could we just do it like for?
What is that, John? What's Ruth talking about?
The C blues go.
C blues jam.
Yeah.
C jam blues.
Jam blues. There was some kind of like, we're just going to do C jam blues now. Is that all right? And everyone knew it, and I didn't. So.
It's only 2 notes, and it's a 12-bar blues. Now, was it Pip who asked about the 12-bar blues? The assumed knowledge.
Yeah.
Do you want to start with that, John?
I was thinking that might be a good idea. There's a couple of things I was wanting to preface the class with, just from the homework as well. So we've got a nice little set of things to get through, I think, which will be nice. Welcome everybody. Welcome Tomaree gals. Nice work with the homework generally. I think everyone did quite well. Blues tends to be a little bit easier to mess around with, because it is kind of, in a sense, a lot more fun to play, I think, a lot of the time. Maybe not all the time, but a lot of the time you feel very groovy playing that sort of stuff. So a couple of things to mention. Probably the biggest thing from the homework that I noticed, and it's not a huge deal, but I guess it's a habit I'd like you to be aware of. I sort of see people are doing really well with their phrasing and stuff, but I am noticing a lot of people tend to keep their phrases restricted to just one string. So, for instance, they'll go like, they'll play the notes for each string, but they won't stray from that when they go outwards to do more things. So yeah, that's just a thing I want you to take note of for when you play, because obviously that's not something you have to do. I can understand why it happens, because sometimes crossing strings can be a little tricky, but your phrases will get a lot more interesting if you feel free to also skip notes and to jump across strings. So you can see that I'm moving across as well as up and down. So that's just something I wanted to mention first off.
John, yeah, this is really showing what a good teacher you are. That you are understanding, like you've just enlightened me as to something that you know what you do innately, but then you're able to translate that into novice speak, if you like, for beginners. So that, I think that's a really great thing to make people aware of, including me. Thank you.
Oh, cool. Thanks, Mark. So yeah, that's something. That's just one thing I noticed. Secondly, and I was chatting with Mark about it earlier. It's to do with your hammer-ons and pull-offs, because I am noticing people trying to do it, which is really good. But it got me thinking as well that I maybe didn't put it in the best light for you, in a sense. Like, you sort of get this image of what a hammer-on and pull-off needs to be in a song because it's in this special expressive techniques box over on the side. But I know personally for my playing, I don't like to think of hammer-ons and pull-offs as a fancy special thing for expression. I like to think of it as something that is just incorporated naturally for the betterment of my playing. Like, I think a slide is quite different to a hammer-on or a pull-off. Even though they're in the same category, I use them in very different ways. And so hammer-ons and pull-offs for me are kind of just a means to an end to be able to play faster and smoother. Is that sort of making sense? Like, I don't want you to think of them as like this fancy thing to add in sometimes. It's more like just a natural thing that should hopefully happen once you practice them enough to make them natural, to help you move faster and cleaner around the fretboard.
Can you give us a quick demo, John?
Sure. Well, I mean, a great way to practice it is with scales, for instance. You can do a whole scale, maybe like a C scale with just hammer-ons and pull-offs. You do hammer-ons on the way up, like that, and then pull-offs on the way down. And you can start to speed that up, the more confident you become with it. So practicing it with scales is a really great idea. But even in a solo, if I was just going like, you can see that it's just a natural progression of me wanting to play faster, and so I transition to the hammer-ons and pull-offs rather than trying to add them in just because they're an expressive technique.
Yeah. So there's two ways to perceive it, or two ways for it to be used. One is as an expressive technique, which I don't think is as expressive as a bend, for instance. And then the other thing is just as a technique to make you play faster, or just to get between notes. And I had something else, it's gone.
Such as the way.
If you do that, but if you're moving between strings, you have to pluck the other string again.
Yeah, exactly.
So then you can't do hammer. Like, it sounded like you were just doing hammer, 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 but you're plucking as well at the same time.
I guess part of the trick there, and I might be jumping ahead a bit, but I don't find myself naturally sticking to the scale shapes that we teach you. People, they call them box shapes, and then some people call them like prisons, because it sort of like restricts you to only playing a C scale, like that. Whereas you could just as easily play it all up here with with notes that aren't open, for instance. And so my point is that if you want to go to another string but you want to hammer onto that note, then usually you can find that same note higher on the string that you're already on. Like, I like to hammer on from the 2nd to 4th fret, because that 4th fret is exactly the same as my open E string. And same, I like to hammer on from 3 to 5, because that 5 on the E string is exactly the same as my A string.
And it also, that this is a thing that I forgot, it also means that you need to get finger strength in all of them. So you can hammer on from the say the 2nd to the 4th fret. You know, so not just get the hammer on, not just have the hammer on from open to whatever, but to get hammer-ons that are useful. In order to do useful hammer-ons in closed shapes, you really need to have the 3rd and the 4th finger engaged.
Yeah, very, very true. So yeah, practicing your scales like that that's really helpful for it. And also that thing we did last time, just going up and down like that, changing the order. All of that is really helpful to help it become more natural. So yeah, I think that's an important progression for you guys, and something that'll be maybe a bit tedious to work on, but it'll be really useful once it's happening well. So
John,
next,
you seem to talk about
yes.
hammer-ons and pull-offs when it's a tone or semitone gap between the notes that you want to play. Only, or
you could also go for a tone and a half. Like if you were going up, you could potentially do it as far as your fingers can reach, but I don't tend to if it's a really big one. Naturally, if I want to get a smooth sound between notes that are further apart, I'll do it like a slide or something instead, just because it's more equipped to handle that.
And the bigger jumps, John, isn't that where tapping comes in, which we're not talking about at all?
Yeah, exactly. If you want to do that, you got to learn to tap and use your other hand to get notes out.
Yeah.
But it's not very ukulele friendly. It's a very advanced expressive technique.
also, John, that thing that you were just doing with I think we had to practice that last in our homework for this week.
Which one was that? The
when you're like going up really quickly, the runs. We had
that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, there you go. Maybe I jumped ahead.
Yeah. So we've practiced that in our homework, but we don't really understand. Well, I didn't really understand what I was going to be doing with that.
Right. Sure. Yeah. It is mainly just for the sake of helping you. It's mainly for finger to fret rule, and also for hammer-ons and pull-offs, learning to make that smooth.
It also replaces the absence of finger gyms, which used to be really widely available across all the shires. So they were little tiny gyms where your fingers could learn gymnastics, and so this replaces that. It's a building strength.
Yeah, that's right.
They still exist very widely across England, don't they, Erica? You're muted, so.
Is this like that guy lives in Wallsend or Smithers?
What was? Yeah, that's it, Jen. Jen's got it. What did you say about Smithers? What? Yes.
There was a guy that lived in Smithers, and you said he lived in Wallsend, and I thought he lived in Wallsend.
No, yeah. No.
Are you being ironic again?
No, I'm being perverse, but there's also truth in it. I mean, that it's about strengthening your fingers and getting them active, just like all the other the tools that you have in a gym to, you get your quad. I don't even know what they're called. Your abdominals going, or your quadriceps, or your
quadriceps.
Yeah.
Very nice. I saw Jen's thing as well. That was really cool.
Yes.
Yeah, if everyone wants to see Jen, she was holding it up a second ago, basically to practice your finger stuff, pushing
It's
down with them.
it's very much about strengthening your fingers.
Mm,
Yeah. But
that's
you can
right.
do it in a much more enjoyable fashion just by playing or learning a song like Sunny Moon for Two.
Very true.
That's called a
Um,
segue.
oh, good segue, Mark. Um, so yeah, we are gonna work a lot on Sunny Moon for Two this week, because it's a really helpful tune, like for numerous reasons, really. First and foremost, I think it teaches you a little bit about syncopation, but then also it sort of solidifies that idea of learning pieces so that you can be inspired by them. Um, and then for the sake of this class too, it'll help explain 12 bar blues a little bit too. So that'll be helpful.
And it's also the melody is quite a pure minor the minor pentatonic, isn't it?
True that, yeah. It's
It's
also
not a
used.
blues. It's not a blues scale. It's a minor pentatonic, so it leaves out the flat and fifth.
That's right.
And the other thing is that it's in D, so that's really good for learning your closed scale shapes.
That's right. Everyone remembers the value of your closed scale shapes.
So it's my girl in a different rhythm, upside down rhythm.
It's my girl for blues.
Yeah, My Girl for Blues. It is. That's right.
Yeah, there you go. So yeah, let's pull that out. Pull out the sheet for Sunny Moon for Two if you've got that there with you, which you should.
Wait, John, what you going to say about how to do 12 bar blues?
Yes, and I'll pull up the sheet and we'll go through it with that, because I think it's pretty well explained on there, if I remember correctly. All right, so if everyone's got that up, first and foremost, let's figure out this 12 bar blues thing, because. Yeah, I kind of neglected to mention exactly what it is, not realizing that maybe not everyone would know exactly what it is. So basically, a 12-bar blues is the most common form of blues, and it's the one that you'll hear the most regularly in blues songs. It's called a 12-bar blues because it goes for 12 bars, and there are lots of different variations on it, but the most common one is like this particular pattern of chords. Okay, so the first 4 bars are going to be your 1 chord. We'll do it in C so it's easy to understand. First 4 bars are your 1 chord. So that's 2 bars, 3 bars. Then you do 2 bars on your 4 chord, which is F. And then 2 bars on your 1 chord again, which is C. Then you do 1 bar on your 5 chord, which is G. Then 1 bar on your 4 chord, which is F. And 2 bars on your 1 chord again. So that's 4 on 1, 2 on 4, 2 on 1, then 1 on 5, 1 on 4, and 2 on 1. And in fact, your circle of fifths will help you with that, because it's only using those major chords that are in that little set of 3 where they're all related. If you remember from earlier on, we were talking about how all those chords are like related in a family. And so it only uses those 3 chords, whatever key you do it in. The 1 is the one in the middle, then the 5 is one next door clockwise, and the 4 is one next door anti-clockwise. So yeah, the reason it's so important is because heaps of people use this progression in blues, and it's set up in a really nice way to help you blues successfully, in a sense.
John, when you play the 4 bars of C, what are the other notes that you're throwing in there?
That's what's called a blues vamp, and it's kind of just a little extra thing to make it sound a bit fancier. Not super important. it's just like a cheeky addition, which we can talk about sometime. We might do it at Euchestra at some point.
So I've just put in the link to what I call the fluffy dice. So it's a pictorial representation of what John just explained. And I'll put in that question as well. Yeah, thank you, Susie. That thing. Yeah, I'll put in what John just explained. Pip, you got a question?
Yeah, I do. So on this fluffy dice sheet, the last is a 5 chord. So does that mean the last one goes then to an F?
No, the 5 is the G on the other side.
It's a G. So you ended a G.
Yeah, so that's what I was talking about with variations. Sometimes you might end with 2 on the 1. In that case, you end with a bar of 1 and then a bar of 5. So they mess it up, but it follows the same general pattern. They might even sometimes if you look at Sunny Moon for 2, it follows almost the same pattern, except instead of doing 4 bars of 1 at the start, in this case the 1 is that D7, they do a bar of 1, then a bar of 4 and 2 bars of 1, but then the rest of it is basically the same. So yeah, it's just little variations like that create interest because they do this same pattern of chords so many times.
But it's also that G that's represented in the fluffy dice is only during the song, and when you get to the end of the song, you don't play G, you play the tonic, you play the 1 chord, you play the C, for instance. So the G it's like the turnaround to go back. Okay, let's go back to the beginning of the song.
That's right. Yeah, it sets up when you play that 5 chord at the end. It sets you up so that you can repeat the 12 bars again.
Erica, have you got a question?
Well, I think John's just clarified that. It wasn't particularly clear, sorry, John, in the explanation that the G is actually 5 because F is the 4. So I just wanted to help make that clear in your answer.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, if you remember on the circle of fifths, you've got the one way around, the clockwise direction, it's fifths, and the other way is fourths, and so that's the easy way to remember. If your 1 is the one you pick in the middle, then the one to your clockwise is going to be the 5, which is G in this case if you're in C, and then the one to your anti-clockwise is your 4, which is F in this case. Yeah, so and you can see the same thing happening in this one. If you have your circle of fifths, you can in Sunny Moon for 2, if you make D the tonic one, the one in the middle, then if you go 1 anti-clockwise, then the G should be your 4, and if you go 1 clockwise, then the A should be your 5. So is that sort of making sense? You can see how this pattern sort of fits together.
And I've just chucked in that fill as well, that an example of a fill that John was doing. I put that into the chat too. The blues run and vamp, John.
Yeah, no, and those runs and vamps are going to be useful for you because they give you a couple of ideas of extra little things you can do in the blues. E.g., like one of my favorite fills ever is when you start it like this. You go 3, 4, 1. Oh, the blues. Yeah, it's like so that's a pretty fun one, and that's written out on there.
It's also another reason to learn your scales really well, particularly the pentatonics, because you can use those scale tones in a chord to give that vampy sense. So, like, if you think about, you've got, well, maybe I should do it here. So I'm only going on to the D note, which is out of the pentatonic. Or I could. That's why you learn scales, so you can your ear gets to hear what fits in with those chords in a particular genre.
Yeah, so that's a cool little thing as well. your microphone was not very friendly with your ukulele though, Mark. You were very loud when you came.
I'm
through.
sorry about that. I'll just stay quiet. Good, thank you.
That's right. You sounded ready to rock. All right. So is that clear enough for everybody so far? Does anyone have any questions they want to clear up before we jump into the contents?
Yeah, can I just ask you that little vamp? Were you using that like the 6th and the 7th of the scale?
Yeah, exactly. 6 and the flat 7 on any
Right.
chord.
Okay. Yeah.
Good question,
Okay.
right?
So
Nice
you can
and
now,
fast.
then you can, yeah.
All right. So let's jump into the actual contents. We're starting with call and response. I think I did a little bit on that in a previous week where I talked about how the blues is sort of built around call and response in a lot of ways, where the singer will sing their bit and then there's this huge gap, you know, a 2-bar gap or something, where the instrumentalist or like the improviser can respond with their solo. And I mean, the easiest example there is Blue Yodel, at least the one that I know, where you go, he left me this morning, midnight was turning day. Oh, he left me this morning. You know, so there's that perfect gap where they get an even amount of time to do their bit. And that's sort of why it's divided into 12 bars, because then you get 6 bars each divided up evenly. So I think what we're gonna do with that first, if I'm reading this right, hold on. Let's actually start now by having a go at Sunny Moon for 2. You know, you've gone to all the effort to learn it. We might as well actually play that. So if you've got that out, I'll pull up the backing track for you, and you can have a go through it. For anyone who isn't totally sure, this is how it should sound. You'll go 2, 3, 4, 1. Okay, so it's basically just descending the minor pentatonic. Technically not the blues scale, just the normal minor pentatonic, and then it's got that little twiddle at the end. And that riff, the head of the song, will stay the same as the chords change underneath it.
It was interesting to watch then. I could see Di was counting on her leg. She was being very strict about making sure that she had the beat. But I got more inspiration from watching Jen, because Jen was just ever so slightly going. She was just jogging her head just a little bit, and I get a much stronger sense of groove in that, which this song really requires. You know, to go. I'm not criticizing a Di for counting, but you know, to do that sort of thing is it's got more swing in it or something, doesn't it, John?
Yeah, I think I mean, it's great practice to count however you like, but I think Jen's got the right idea, and like grooving a little there gives you more space to play as well. So yeah, I think as a general rule, you want to be constantly grooving a little bit. Like you want to be aware of how your backing track is sounding rhythmically, so that you can match yourself up to it. So yeah, let's have a play through, and then we'll have a chat about it as well. Talk about what we can do with it. Okay. By the way, I can't remember exactly how many bars of this there are, but what I'll try and get you to do is go through it like as written one time, and then do a solo in D blues, and then go through it as written again. And I think that's the amount of bars that should be good enough for it. All right. 1, 2. Can everyone hear that? 1, 2, 3. Here we go. Alrighty.
I've got 2 comments there. One is, and I think there's a few stages. The first stage is that people are looking at the music. They're looking over here at the music and they're reading it, but it's only one phrase. It's 2 phrases or something like that. It's a very small amount of phrases that repeats. You don't need to look at the music. You need to learn it. So then that allows you to feel it. The other impediment, so that's an impediment. Like, you need to look at the directions the first time you want to go to a leader's house, but then you know where a leader lives. You don't need to look at them again. The next, who is that? Oh, it's you, John.
Yeah, sorry.
The next stage is where people don't know where their fingers are, so they're really looking at the fretboard. And so the whole reason of practicing scales is that so you know what they feel like under your fingers, not where you can see them. So you get used to that sort of relative positioning. So first stage, learn music. Second stage, practice enough so you don't need to look at your fingers. And then I think another stage is like, look to the sky, look to where your musical imagination is going to come from, so you can express yourself. And again, that's sort of the groove thing. That's my 2 bobs.
That's good, yeah. So I guess my question is, like, did you guys get a sense of the syncopation in that when you played it? Do you sort of feel where the syncopation might be? Can someone unmute and tell me where you think where the syncopation really kicks in with this song?
On the first beat.
Yeah, that'd be it, Ruth. That's probably the biggest example of it. It's littered throughout. I mean, you can go through each beat bit by bit, but the very first bit is the most obvious, where you don't come in on beat 1. You go 2, 3, 4, 1, and 2. You come in on the and instead. 1, bum, 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 bum. You can hear that whole bit right after it is not syncopated. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Then it gets a little syncopated when you get to that next phrase. 1, 2, 3, 4. Dum, 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 dum. You can hear the accents for that second bit all sort of, they're strong when you're in between the beat instead of on top of it. Di, did you have a question?
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think the hardest. Am I muted? Hang on, sorry.
No, you're all good. You're still here.
Oh, good. The hardest bit is, I think, between that second and third bar. You know, here you've got the 3 Ds, and then you go to the next D. You think 4 Ds in a row would be easy to play, but it's not. That's the syncopation there. It's really quite tricky, isn't it?
I think totally. Naturally you would almost assume to go da 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 da, like to come in a little sooner, but no, you're absolutely right. Like, that's almost where looking at the tab is kind of a hindrance, because naturally in your head you know that it's ba da 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 da, and you know, looking at the tab you might group together all those Ds, but then playing it without it, you can hear it as, you know, the start of a new phrase that, you know, is syncopated. But the music helps. You can see where the syncopation lies as well, because basically all the bits that are syncopated have the little quaver rest in front of them. That little thing that looks like the upside down golf club, basically. The very little one is a quaver rest, which means you have to wait half a beat before playing. So if you're, you know, music notation minded, then that's a helpful little thing that sort of signifies it to you. Yeah.
That was interesting, Di. I had to go looking for the 4 Ds in a row, because I do not read the music like that. Like John said, it's about the phrases. It's not about 4 Ds in a row. So you've got to look for the phrases and you've got to feel the phrases. And I just had another thought about, you know, Vanessa Moran, right? You know, the first step is don't read the music. Second step is don't look at your fingers. Third step is get your musical imagination. But I reckon a fourth step is, and John, I don't know if we've ever played it together, but where you lock in with the other band members to really mess around with the syncopation, so that that sort of, is that too loud?
No, that was actually better that time.
Yeah, so that sort of, you know, when that sort of stuff locks in with others, that's really fun as well. But that really has to happen in a live situation, and you can mess with it. You know, you can push or pull on the timing.
Well, that's actually a really good point, Mark, because the next thing we're going to do is we're going to play it again, but we're going to mess with the rhythm of it a bit. So we're going to I want you to play exactly the same notes as you were just playing, but I want you to play a different rhythm. And if you can, try and keep it syncopated, you know. But as I was saying, I said on someone's improv homework, it's kind of all about a mix of syncopation and not syncopation. Like, if you spend the whole time going, you know, like on all the offbeats, that in a sense kind of just becomes unsyncopated again, because there's no diversity. It's kind of about the interplay between it. So what I mean by changing the rhythm is you might go like this, we'll do the same backing. I think I'll put it from the middle though, so that you don't have the actual thing playing over you. But you might go like 2, 3, 4, 1. So I'm using all the same notes there in basically the same order, but I'm moving the rhythm around so that it's a bit different.
Ruth's question was, does syncopation just mean the upbeat? And I would say no. You can answer that, John.
Yeah, not quite. I like to think of syncopation as accenting any beat that's not the one. So, e.g., the upbeat is the most common one because it's halfway in between the on-beat. But there's also in between beats, in between the downbeat and the upbeat. And if you look at like Latin rhythms and stuff, where stuff comes in even like a semiquaver late, that's when it starts to get really interesting. Yeah, you can basically syncopate as far as you can subdivide, in a sense.
Could a syncopation, if you already have a syncopated melody, no, this is a bit of a dumb question, but if you already have a syncopated melody, if you already have an offbeat melody or the upbeat melody, then would syncopation be messing around with it on the beat?
Potentially, I think. I think
drawing a long bow there.
It might not be the best way to explain it, but but it sort of leads into that idea of interplay. Like, you want to have a bit of both, so that it solidifies the fact that it is syncopated.
Thank you, Mark, for making that really clear to everybody.
Yeah. You took one for the team.
I'm looking at the Britannica definition.
Oh, good.
So syncopation in music is the displacement of regular accents associated with given metrical patterns.
Well, yeah, that's
resulting in a disruption of the listener's expectations and the arousal of a desire for the re-establishment of metric normality. Hence, the characteristic forward drive of highly syncopated music.
That's enough, Phoebe. Thank you.
Getting a bit hot and bothered with that one. Oh, that's so funny.
John, it's the displacement of regular accents. I think that's the interesting.
Totally.
Are you using offbeat and upbeat interchangeably?
Sorry, yes, I am using offbeat and upbeat interchangeably. Technically, it's not right, but
we get the support we need,
the
funds we need.
What's going on?
That was me.
Watching videos in class.
No, I'm watching the video that Ruth shared. I'll just have a quick look at it.
Fair enough.
Sergio Mendes, who must be the master of syncopation in my world, I think.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely, Sergio Mendes, beautiful stuff.
Totally. Look at any Latin performers. Like, all of that sort of stuff is gonna be insane when it comes to syncopation, and we're going very deep into it right now. But like I say, for you guys, syncopation doesn't need to be super complicated. It's really just a matter of not being on the on-beat sometimes. Sometimes I just want you to go 2, 3, 4, 1. I'm messing around with where I'm accenting. I tend to try and accent off the beat, and also I mess around with the length of my phrases too. Some of them are a bit more legato and some more staccato with the short and sharp. Yeah, there's a couple things that go into it there, but anyway, sorry, I've gotten a bit off topic. But
and I think that we could really we could interrogate what syncopation means, but probably the best thing to do is if we all left the class now and bought a ticket to Cuba or somewhere like that and just hung out in bars, Then we will learn the true meaning of syncopation.
Oh, the dream. Oh, the dream.
Yeah, book me that ticket, baby.
Oh yeah. All right, so I'll share my screen again, and we'll just go from like the middle of it instead, so that you don't have the thing playing in the background for you. And yeah, do the same notes in the same order, but try and mess around with the rhythm. It's a little tricky, but it's well worth it for the sake of this lesson that I'm trying to teach. So I'll just find it. Okay, it should be coming up here. Oh, it's in right now. Go for it. So that's where we'll finish that off, because it goes back into normal stuff.
John, we didn't talk. We didn't make a. We didn't make a decision about breakout rooms.
No, I hadn't thought about it yet.
I'm sort of wondering whether, because syncopation is so critical, I wonder if we need to listen to, and Jane is just walking out now from, she's in a class as well. Whether we do that now, just have a bit of a listen to people doing some syncopating.
Yeah, I think potentially that would be a good idea, because it might be nice to discuss some things that you can do, like the idea of stealing from the melody and stuff. Maybe that would be easier to do in smaller groups.
Yeah, because so what you've asked for us to do is to so people just kept the same timing but changed the notes. Is that what you did? I can't remember.
Other thing, opposite.
Opposite.
Kept the same notes but changed the timing.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. So, so what do you think? Do you think you want to do that yet, or the thing?
I'd like to quickly ask everyone how that went for them first, and then
yes, no, of course.
So did that work out okay for anybody? I'm getting some thumbs up. It's a little tricky, like I said. I'm getting a few of these, and that's okay too. Any comments about that? Anyone?
I found that I was breaking into an improv, like I know the notes. I've actually memorized it, so I know the notes. But because I was sort of grooving a bit, I just was breaking into improv, and I'd have to get back to what I was doing. But otherwise, it was it was really good.
It's a good challenge, isn't it? Like it's almost hard not to improv because it becomes something so fresh.
Yeah.
Even though it's all exactly the same notes you were just using. But yeah. Did anyone else have anything they wanted to say about that?
I found I could do it with the first phrase, but the second I'd go back to the melody. And if I really tried to get away from the melody, I'd do the same as Trish, start improv, and then have to refocus to get back with the same notes again. I found it really hard.
It's interesting. Like I want to reinforce like the point of this is not that you wouldn't necessarily do this exact thing in an improvisation, but it's more to like this is a challenge in particular, like an exercise, so that you get the idea that you can steal bits from the melody and make them different. So like people when they're listening, they kind of latch on to melodic ideas like the main riff in this song, and even if you take it and e.g. change the rhythm of it but keep the notes, or change the notes of it and keep the rhythm, people are going to notice that subconsciously.
It's really quite instructive to listen to the 8-minute version of this song by Sonny Rollins, because they do 2 times through the melody, and it's probably a trio or a quartet, and then the 3rd time through was when they start the solos, and the solo starts with Sonny Rollins going da 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 da. So he takes the last phrase, and then that's the commencement of his solo, him messing around with that melody. And that's the most, I find that one the most syncopated part, and he syncopates it even more, and that's the beginning of him just going completely stupid.
It's been really cool to see, because a lot of you have got it under your belt. I think that you've got that idea of taking an idea and sort of developing it. You know, you might shift it a little bit, or make it a bit longer, or make it a bit shorter. Like most of you seem to have that sort of idea, and now we're talking about it in a new kind of sense where you're doing it with pre-made stuff. You know, you're doing it with stuff that you've stolen rather than stuff you've made up on the spot. Because all this stuff that you can learn from other songs is going to be really kind of vital in terms of keeping your ideas new, and like, you know, keeping them coming, so that you don't get bored yourself, and so you don't run out of new things to do. Let's break out on it, and we're gonna do. We'll have more of a chat about this sort of thing, about stealing from the melody and like making it our own. But we'll also do the opposite of what we just did. We'll play Sunny Moon for 2, but instead of changing the rhythm, we'll keep the rhythm exactly the same, but we'll change the notes around. This one's a little bit harder, but it might sound like this. You could go like, you'd use the D blues scale or the D minor pentatonic scale. I'll use the blues scale. So you could go 2, 3, 4, 1. Something like that. And you can see how different it makes it straight away. As I said, it's a bit tricky though, so if it doesn't work, don't stress. Again, like the other one, it's just to give you ideas. It's not something you have to be perfect at. It's all just leading you towards better soloing. So yeah, let's break out. Have you been making breakout rooms, Mark?
Yeah, look, it's only you and I, John. Jane is indisposed.
Fair enough.
So I'll just take the first half of the alphabet, and you take the second half. I think would be the best way.
Sounds like a plan.
All right. So oh no, what? Oh, now I'm confused. Oh no. Okay. Yes. So I need John. If you want John, you have to go into the group called Mark. Sorry about that.
That may be confusing, but
John, you'll have to go into the group called Mark. But anyhow, I've allocated them. So just, I think, is it a join? Do you get a join instruction there?
Yep, that's it. Come meet me at Mark.
All right. These are the people of the second half of the alphabet. Welcome, the V's and the P's and the T's. Okay, Coxie, you're doing you're the strong silent type. Give us some verbals, will you, Michael? If you're not going to give us some verbals, give us some of Sunny Moon for 2, and I just want to hear how you're going with it and a bit of syncopation.
Yeah. Is that right?
Yeah. Are you getting that little finger going yet?
Oh, yes, I am. Cool.
Right, so I think you're getting a bit lost in the without the original sound there probably. And what I was trying before was Marion, I'll just mute you. Was I was thinking about the, and I'm nowhere near as good as John. I'm just using the notes of Sunny Moon for 2, but I'm doing a pull off from that to that, and it's quite difficult because your pinky's going to be really under the hammer there to do that. But you can hear I'm doubling the melody instead of going. I'm taking a little snippet of the melody and going. Now I got it smoother that time, so I had some idea of what I was doing, and I was trying to develop the theme, but I was also developing my skill on the fingers. Does that make sense as a way to travel with that? I wasn't just talking to you, Michael. I was sort of. Does that? Can I get somebody else to either ask a question or give us an example of what they're doing there? Phoebe, you look like you're passing notes in class, aren't you? To Vanessa. Now,
Sorry, I'm trying to catch up. I was late from a meeting and not doing very well.
That's all right. Are you doing okay now?
No, I've got no idea where we're at, but I'll just catch up with the
Okay.
video.
Did you learn Sunny Moon for 2, Vanessa? Did you have a go at it during the week?
No,
Have you heard the song?
never heard it.
But you've
I
been
played it
listening.
once. I lie. I played it once.
Great.
I'm just
Okay.
going to sit back and listen.
That's okay. All right. I will ignore you judiciously. Phoebe, do you want to give us a go with what you're doing, please?
Are you wanting me to play straight Sunny Moon?
Yeah, just give me a bit of that, and then move on to giving us a bit of an improvisation around it, and the syncopation sort of stuff.
Is that because I'm naughty for messaging and I'm now in the naughty corner and I haven't done any of my homeworks? Because
No.
every time I do
No.
I always get the timing wrong there.
Yeah, that's a hard one. So even getting the phrasing of that do 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 do, that's something that you need to integrate into your body. So that takes a bit of time. And like I said, when I was trying to develop that little solo that I was doing, it was a combo of, I like that idea. I need to, so my musical imagination, but then getting my fingers to do it.
Yeah.
Have you got anything that you can offer us as an improvisation? Since you haven't done your homework, that means that you can just make shit up.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know. I just noodle. Like I just
No,
noodle when it's
noodle.
playing with the music in the background. And
Yeah, but can you
I
noodle
can never
now?
remember what I've played, so I can't do it again.
Oh, well, that's actually a really good skill to have, is when you get a phrase that you like, repeat it. Like, surely your memory will last longer than 3 notes.
I have 2 children. You've met them. They're not here now, though, so maybe I stand a chance. No, I can't because the pressure's on.
And you added in the blue note there, so that's okay.
Yeah, no, I was just noodling along before because I thought we were supposed to half do it when we first played it. I don't know. I can't do it under the pressure.
Okay, that's totally fine. And the answer is that you're next to Phoebe, next to Vanessa on my screen, so that's partly why I was doing that. I will mute you.
Sure.
And Susie, could I? Michael, did you want to say something? No. Susie, you got something to offer, or?
No, I don't think so. I've had a busy-ish week and haven't done my homework yet, and so I've got some days off coming up, so I'm going to do some practice.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Some homework.
Okay, now look, there's some of these retirees here who actually have done their homework. Yes, okay, thank you, Michael. But Marion, do you want to give us a bit of a go?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, I'm just having a whole lot of trouble with internet today.
No, it's working fine.
Yeah.
So when you particularly, I reckon particularly when you go for the little finger on the 5th fret of this song, that's a really good opportunity to just have a little rest and a little bend. So, and if you're gonna, yeah, so try and listen for repetitive themes that just come out automatically. Here I'm bending it. And I thought, oh, that sounds all right. I'm going to repeat that. So you do not have to do too much. And particularly the plonky sort of... It's not going to do much for anybody, I reckon. Peter. Thanks, Marion. That was good. You got to unmute, Peter.
Practiced a bit, but not enough to really be on top of it. So just the question I got feedback from the homework, of course, was about dwelling on the note a bit longer.
Yes, which is what I was trying.
Too much.
Which is what I was trying to say there. Like we're all really overemphasizing, I guess, the mechanics of the scale we're learning, and we need to do that in order to learn it and to get our fingers to learn it. But we also then we need to relax and not play so much and not show that we can play every note. Mm-hmm. So that's what I was sort of saying with Marion just then a bit, that just hang around a bit longer. Can you show us, Peter? Give us a bit of a go of Sunny Moon for Two.
Yeah, I need to look.
You need to look. Okay, now you've got those notes. Can you I want to see you a bit more bounce with it, and then don't necessarily play all of those notes. Give me some groove without playing too many notes, almost. So that means a bit of feel and a bit of bendy stuff. Mm.
No.
So you're still pretty plonky there, Peter.
Yeah. I got the feeling.
Yeah. So Michael's actually showing a fair bit of feel with what he's doing, even though his dress sense is a bit dubious. It's always a football jumper. That you need to get fluidity needs to come through knowing the music. And this is only a short phrase of music. Who wants to have a go? I will ask for volunteers. Thanks, Ruth. Sonia, do you want to? That's a definite no. Okay, and Pip, you will. Great. Okay, Ruth, thank you. Okay. So you said oops, that was good, but you went da 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 da. Was that a mistake or was that an improvisation?
That was just that's just what it sounds like on the backing track, so I copied that.
Okay, so it's a variation. It's a bit like Chinese whispers. So you're doing a variation on the melody, which I would almost call an improvisation.
So I am totally intimidated by the tablature and the sheet music. So I just listen and I learn.
Absolutely fantastic. That's the best way to go about it. I learnt this song around a campfire. I didn't have any. We had to write it out, so we could teach it because different people need different ways to learn. But where you went, the melody goes. But you went. That might have been the internet messing with it, but that's what I would call an improvisation. That's a lovely variation. That still talks of the melody, but it just gives a little bit of a variant on it. So I think your ear listening is really good, and that's also, you've got to listen to your musical imagination, as I keep saying, to come up with something else. But then you'll be limited by your fingers.
I'm limited by, I can't actually absorb it off the page. So I have to kind of clunk my brain through the page stuff, but then I listen to be able to, it's like, okay, now just, I want to hear it. Because
absolutely. That is what I would highly recommend, Ruth. That's a fantastic way to learn music, to my mind. So yeah, good, well done. Pip.
Oakley dokley. You just want me to do the tune, yeah?
Yeah, do the Sunny Moon for two, and then take a round of just improv.
It's in the brain.
Cool. Now can you give me a little bit of impro and hold the notes a bit more lovingly and longly? So I heard there, like you did that. I can't quite remember, but you did something, and I went, oh yeah, that went where I wanted to go to as a listener. And then you did this, and then you went off somewhere. You did an octave lift, but I wanted to hear that again. And when I was expecting it as a listener, I went, damn, she didn't go there again, because you'd already trained me up to go, There was something there that I wanted to hear that again.
Okay.
So I think that's a really good thing to do with improvisation generally. Yeah. I'm going to bring the others back. Is there any other questions in the last 50 seconds?
I would argue, Pip, that you were doing exactly what Phoebe's dictionary instructions said, which was keep people hanging because that's where they want you to go, but you didn't go there. Good girl.
Right. Oh, okay, yeah.
His dressing gown. Like, I'm so with the dressing gown tonight. Like, seriously, it's great.
And look, I get what you're saying there, Vanessa.
I am joking.
No. It is because there's a tension in improvising that is between giving what people enjoy and then giving them something unexpected. And that could be in a single phrase, or it can be in the length of a song, and I think Ruth again, or maybe Peter, people kept throwing in that flattened fifth, which is the blue note. And that's where I go, oh my God. But it's also, okay, that you're going to suffer through this because I want to do this note. So, yeah. Sorry, John, just finishing my lecturing.
That's all right. I finally got an improv.
Mark,
Yes.
thank you.
Oh,
You don't know why, but thank you.
you weren't in my group, Diane.
You are a legend.
Mark chose
No,
exactly the right
no, that
time
wasn't it at all. But John will be laughing and know why.
Yeah,
Cut me off.
Some people got very lucky at the end there, not having to do any stuff.
It's funny. It's funny how the ex-school principals really enjoy, being irresponsible.
That's right. All that repressed irresponsibility coming up to the surface.
Yeah, that's right.
Finally, I don't have to be a good example.
We got 20 minutes, John. What are we doing?
Nice. Well, let me look at this. What did you talk about, Mark?
I hope I didn't talk too much. I went through with the people who were willing or who were told. I like to hear what people do, and so people would generally play Sunny Moon for Two, and then have a bit of an improvisation, which allowed me to sort of commentate on that and the nuances of improvising.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to discipline 2 people who were passing notes in class. So apart from that,
oh my goodness, we tried to go through the changing the notes but keeping the rhythm the same, which I think everybody collectively had a tricky time with. But I reminded everybody that like this stuff where we're keeping one bit the same and changing another is not generally how you would construct a solo. You would just take snippets of these ideas to put into your whole improvisation. Like the best example I thought of was there's that bit at the end of Sunny Moon for Two where it goes ba-da-bwa, ba-da-da, ba-da-bwa, ba-da-da, and that rhythmic phrase is a really awesome and very useful one, and a very iconic one. And so using just that rhythmic phrase with other notes would be really useful, to go.
Yeah, nice.
Stuff
Nice.
like that is really helpful. So, and did
So
anyone?
can I ask, when we say other notes, that means other notes on the blues scale?
That's
or other
it, yeah.
notes in the song?
Really depends on what song you're playing, but in this case, yes, in the blues scale. But all this applies to the major scale as well. It's mainly a lesson, in my eyes, this is mainly a lesson in how you can take a melody that you've learnt. Obviously, that's my first bit of advice, is you should try and take the time to learn the melodies of songs, because there's just this well of inspiration there for you to use. Yes, and then once you have that melody, what do you do with it? And these are just sort of some ideas, like you can take it and you can keep the rhythm but change the notes. You could keep the notes but change the rhythm, even just for snippets. You could take the melody and extend it so that it's slower and takes longer, or you could play it really fast. You could play it backwards. All that sort of stuff. I don't think we've talked about it in Improv 1, but it's kind of this idea of it's this general idea of sequence, I guess. It's not exactly sequence, but sequence is a part of it. But yeah, stealing from the melody and changing it and making it your own is a really useful technique, and gives you this huge amount of stuff to pull from if you know lots of melodies. So yeah, that's some useful stuff there. But before we finish up, I wanted to jump into rock and roll, because the real trick with rock and roll is it's basically just soloing over the blues, but you do it faster. So I guess the really important thing here is that you generally tend to use the blues scale, but you really want to get the hammer-ons and pull-offs happening. At least that's what I think will be the real key for it, because to play faster, I think that's kind of indispensable. And where did I just miss in the chat? Yeah, no, really good point, Alita. That's super useful. Even singing it out loud, you see really great jazz musicians like singing along to their solos, and sometimes it sounds a bit funny, but it's
George
really...
Benson. George Benson is the classic one who made that quite famous. You will know who he is.
It's a really cool thing to do, and a really helpful thing to do, and I find I like to do that sort of stuff too.
Like don't tell John too much stuff that he's got no idea about. Al Jarreau. I mean, I don't really want to know about Al Jarreau either. Ugh. It's awful music.
Oh dear.
I wanted to say what I said to you before, when we talked before, John, that I've only through doing these courses myself have I come to appreciate more about the blues, and I can do it under my fingers a bit, but only and improvising when it's slow. If I start to get into something fast, I really get lost because I haven't got the technique, I haven't got the phrases in my head, I haven't got the skills in my fingers. And what I was saying to John was, I think what we need to do when we're doing these fast call and response things, which is also called rock and roll, is come up with a phrase and keep repeating it. And if it's a difficult phrase between, say, your second and your fourth finger, like a hammer-on or something, and there will probably be a lot of hammer-ons because that's what helps you with speed, then you've got to come up with a phrase and keep repeating it. So you build your technique and you build the repertoire of riffs in your head.
Yeah, this kind of genre, because you don't have as much time to think about it, I think it's a really good point that you really have to let your fingers just do it sometimes, and to be able to let your fingers just do it, you need to have the technique to start with, and also, yeah, as Mark said, like a repertoire. I have, like, in my brain, I kind of just have these rock and roll ideas that tend to come out every time I play a rock and roll solo, and those are like my defaults that I go with, because oftentimes it won't work if I try and experiment so much, and so it's a good idea to listen to what other people have done. Think back to some of the riffs we used to do in Ukestra. I mean, one of my favorites, we used to do You Never Can Tell, the Chuck Berry song, and we'd go it was a teenage wedding and the old folks wished him well. That little thing there, and that sort of stuck with me as a really useful little snippet that got incorporated into my rock and roll tool belt, as it were, and that's one that I use quite regularly. Also, stuff like this is like little rolls and all that business. Like, yeah, you kind of want to have your own unique tool belt of rock and roll ideas that you can draw from, and it'll cross over with the blues a ton because they're so similar. Yeah, that's sort of the general idea with that. And I think maybe there was something else I wanted to say, but does anyone have any questions about any of that?
I think we should play one, John, and just see how we go.
I think so too. Well, we've got what one are we doing? Long Tall Sally. We'll start off by doing it. Actually, let me just check the different speeds, because we have a couple of speeds for it. Whew. Okay. I clicked on the audio slower one and it was quite fast. Yeah, okay, we're gonna go with the slow one, because it's already pretty speedy. Yeah, so yeah, try and incorporate some bluesy ideas. I believe we're doing it in C. Yeah, you'll use your C blues scale for this. Try and use some hammer-ons and pull-offs. And yeah, just see how you go having to not think so hard. Try and just let your fingers do the work for you, in a sense. That's probably my best advice for now, in trying to do that. So, I'll share my screen. Can you guys hear that? I feel like that might be the fast one. Yeah, it was. Can you hear that? No. Did I forget to share my sound? Let's try this again. Yeah, I forgot. How about that? Cool. Alright. Here we go.
Ruth, were you entirely lost in that, or you've run out of steam? Unmute, Ruth. Unmute.
I don't know C Jam Blues, and I when I look at it, it's music.
Okay, I think there's a bit of misunderstanding here, Ruth. There is a song called C Jam Blues, which goes. That's C Jam Blues. That goes over a 12-bar blues. But what we were doing then was just improvising using the C minor pentatonic scale, or you could use the C blues scale. That's just using the scale notes to improvise, to make stuff up, not to go, which is the song C Jam Blues.
Have you got the riff sheet there, Ruth? With it should have the blues scale on the C riff sheet.
I find it harder to do the syncopation with than with the blues ones were easier. Is that right?
I think that's probably fair. Like, it is probably a bit easier to syncopate when you've got more time to think about it. It's easier to syncopate by accident when you're going this fast, which probably isn't necessarily a bad thing. Again, it's just practice. As with everything, playing faster is kind of automatically going to be a bit harder.
If you're going to get any syncopation, it's only going to happen through hammer-ons and pull-offs, I think, in that. Di, you've got your hand up?
I don't know if anybody else has the same problem, but I found when it's faster, I think sometimes before, we do our homework, etc., I tend to practice that scale. And when you just say the C blues, I haven't got the pattern under my fingers enough yet that I sometimes get the wrong, totally wrong notes. Yeah. So, and that's what I found. I was getting frustrated because I kept playing things going, that's not part of it. I don't know if anybody else found that as well.
It's I think that's a very normal thing too, though. Like, while you're still learning those scales, like, What did I say? Like when you want to let your fingers take over, you have to have the automatic response under your fingers for that to happen. And so as the blues scale becomes something that's just a part of your repertoire, the more you do that, the more you play the blues, I think the easier rock and roll will get. So yeah, I think it's just like a time thing, a time and a practice and an energy thing, about how much you decide to practice that stuff.
John,
Trish,
can I ask a question? You mentioned a C riff sheet. I was just improvising using the C blues scale, but you mentioned a C riff sheet. What's that look like? I must be missing something.
I might have accidentally been referring to the C scale sheet as a C riff sheet.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
That might be a good idea though, Mark. Maybe we should think about compiling like a licks sheet for rock and roll. Anyway, might think about that.
Great. Yep. That's a good idea.
Yeah, thanks, Deirdre. And when we've been doing Faith in the Zookestras by George Michael, like I've actually that solo is pretty much just a bunch of licks thrown together. It's not that original. It's not supposed to be original, but it'll be, we could pull. I would like to write that out, but I'm too lazy.
I was listening to AC/DC before this, and that kind of rock and roll, and doesn't kind of go with it.
That's right. I don't think I'd call AC/DC rock and roll in the classic sense. They're definitely closer to the heavy rock sort of style. But yeah, no, there's but you'd probably solo in the same sort of way. I think AC/DC in particular would mainly be hanging around the minor pentatonic, maybe the blues. I know they definitely sometimes use the Mixolydian scale as well, which we haven't talked about, but is often a big part of bluesy rock stuff. They like their Mixolydian scale. It's basically a combination of the major and minor in the barest of senses without getting into it too crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of applications for that sort of stuff.
What's the homework for this week, John?
The homework for this week is you want to do a blues song like last week, but you want to do a call and response style blues song. So, e.g., Blue Yodel is the easiest one out of those to try and do. The main thing you want to get from it is that you want to have something doing a call for you, e.g., he left me this morning, midnight was turning day, and then you respond in a similar fashion with your melody in the gap in between. Does that sort of make sense? It's like, I'll do a quick example for those who aren't sure. So you'd go, he left me this morning, midnight was turning day. Oh, he left me this morning, the vocals of the call, midnight was turning day. And the riff here is the response. I didn't have no blues till my good man went away. Something like that,
Yeah, just like that, John.
Just like that.
You want us playing the chords as well as the call?
No, sorry.
Enough just to play the call. Please tell us it's enough, and we don't have to sing either.
No, you just do the response. You do the response to the vocals.
Is there an example of that in? Well, there must be in a fast rock and roll. Like I'm looking at Long Tall Sally, and I go, I'm gonna tell Aunt Mary about Uncle John. He said he had the music, but he had a lot of fun. Oh baby, ooh baby, hey baby, gonna have some fun tonight. And that, like, gonna have some fun tonight. There's no room in that vocal.
not until the very end where it goes, "Gonna have some fun tonight. Gonna have some fun tonight."
Yeah.
Crazy stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
So you
Extra
could do
points
it on a
if you
rock and
can.
yeah. If you can do a rock and roll song, then I'll be colour me impressed. We'll say. So yeah. Try and do the call and response, and try and incorporate a bit of the melody of the song you're playing. Like, see if you can learn the melody a bit, and then utilize that in your response. Because like songs with call and response benefit from there being similarities between the call and the response. So that's a bit of extra work, and that's just if you can. But if it doesn't work out, then it's not as huge a deal. Marion, did you have a question?
Yep. I did Blue Yodel for my homework this week. Is it useful to do it again and do something different with it, or have you got any other songs to suggest?
I thought a few people did that, actually. I thought a few people probably did the call response. Did they? This week?
I think some people probably naturally did the call and response because they were avoiding playing over the vocals. Last week's homework was just a blues song, basically. So based on what we did today, I would accept, like, 'cause we didn't talk about the call and response as much as I think I maybe planned. So that totally is the homework that's written, and I am fine if you do that. But if you want to do more of a focus on like developing melody, like we really focused on today, like e.g. if you wanted to do something on Sunny Moon for 2, since you already know that melody, then you can do Sunny Moon for 2, and then in the improvisation part of it, take that melody and develop it somehow, you know, use bits of it to make it your own thing, to make it an improvisation.
That'd be yours, Marion, at least.
Yeah, so, and you know, either of those options I'm okay with, because that's just sort of the way things went today in terms of how the teaching happened, so such is the way. Any final questions or comments?
We can't do that fancy riffy bit you just did at the end, though. We can only response.
Yes, no, that's okay. You can do you just do the bits you can, and I'm happy with that. The response is if you're doing the call and response, you only really need to do the response. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
We're getting into the last 2 weeks, which are the hard weeks. So you're all doing very well, and don't freak out, because you know this is where the stuff starts to get a little trickier. No, leader, I said don't freak out. Yeah, this is where it starts to get a little bit trickier. But you know, just keep treading water, and hopefully some of this stuff will stick in your brain, and then you'll be able to start to utilize that. And you know, especially when Euchestra comes back, you'll have this new thing you can just do when you're sitting in the background. Or maybe Mark will go, "Person, do a solo," and you'll be forced into the limelight.
It's all evolving really well. I can see people's skills evolving really well, and like it all leads very nicely into improv 2, which we haven't spoken about yet, John. Like in terms of stepping into that viper pit, Jess.
Good night, everybody.
Good night. Yeah. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks very much.
Thank you.